Hi everyone, this is Steve from SCOARTGLASS. I just wanted to show everybody what it takes to clean this particular model. This is the Max Power 2 grinder. This is one of the projects I'm going to be doing, is making a watering system for this. But this is what I have to do to clean this thing out each time. And if I do the watering system, then I won't have to do this. So I got to take this lid off. You get a lot of buildup around the edge here, and I have to sit here and scrape all that out. Get a lot of that so I can get a lot of it up on here, and then scrape it out into the trash can, but still a pain. But if I do the watering system, there'll be a constant flow of water over this, and then I'll be able to really not have to clean it out like this. I put a tube on it and run out, so I can just put a bucket right up underneath and let it flow right into that bucket. It just pour some water out and so forth. But I'll change that tube out to be a little bit longer tube to go into a bigger 5-gallon bucket that will recirculate the water up through a pump, and then there'll be a spout that'll come and let right over the edge. Constantly spray water right over this and keep the grindy bit wet, but then also keep water flowing through here, and it'll go out the drain plug here, which I'll just remove that out of the way.
Okay, everybody, we are back. Right here you see is the supply list we're going to use for the new watering system that I just talked about. So let's get started. On your supply list, you're going to want a fountain pump, a 50 to 80 gallon per hour for a tabletop fountain, and then a polyethylene tube that is the 3/8 outer diameter that you're going to connect to the fountain pump, and then also to the 3/8 outer diameter valve that has a turn off, on and off knob. Then you have your polyethylene tube, which will be your drainage hose. That's going to go into a 5-gallon bucket. This bucket will hold the water. The glass powder will drain through the drain plug and down through the hose. Then the powder will settle, and then the water up at the top will be clean, and the pump will circulate it back up through a hose and out through the spout that will come right over the grinder. That way it'll continue back down through the hose, and then so forth. I will leave a list of the supplies down in the description area below. Make sure you like, comment on this video, and ensure you subscribe to my channel and hit that notification button. So here I decided to use a brick to elevate the pump off of the bottom of the bucket. This will allow the glass powder to settle before it's actually picked up by the pump and recirculated up above. So the next step is going to unpack your pump and begin to assemble everything together. So this particular model has a control valve on it, on the amount of pressure, so that you can dial back and forth. But we're going to leave it on full and kind of see what happens next, of how much pressure it's actually going to have. So I've mounted my tube to the pump, and I'm going to just go ahead and stick it in the bucket, and then begin to route my tube up through around the back of the stand to the area where I'm going to be setting up a mount for it. Right now there's a lot of tube, but we'll adjust that after we route it through the back and pull all the tubing through the back of the stand. Now that I've pulled it all through, I'm making my cut of how much tubing I'm going to leave for right now and work with to see where the pressure from the pump ends up being. Now I'm going to go ahead and fix the valve onto the tube. Here I'm just checking to make sure the function works appropriately and that the internal mechanism, when you turn it on and off, it actually is working properly. So just to fix it, it's a push style fitting, so that way it just kind of locks it in fairly easy. Don't worry, you can take it back out by pressing the coupling and it'll actually come back out. So next, I'm going to take the drain hose and fix it and get the proper distance I need for the drainage. So if you don't have a model that has a drain plug, you'll probably need to create a drain section so that you can affix a hose to it to get it drained back into the bucket. Once I've affixed it, I'll just tighten the clamp down and ensure it's fitted properly and tight and there's no leaks. Now I'm going to measure out how much hose I actually need and then make my cut appropriately. I kind of go deep into the bucket just to make sure the drainage of the powder hits below the level of the pump. This will allow time for it to settle before the pump picks it back up. So now that I've done that, now I'm making my water trips to fill up the water, and you want to make sure that you put enough water in there that rises above the pump so that there's plenty of water to circulate through, and it'll actually last you a while. So here I made a total of 4 trips, the last trip being just a partial, just to get it above the pump by about a couple of inches above the pump. Now I'm going to test to see how much water is actually going to come out through the hose and see if it's, as you can see, it's not trickling out very much. I actually realized at this point that I may have too much hose from the pump to my valve, so I ended up making an adjustment and remembered that this is a low flow pump, so only recommends 1 to 2 feet of hose for that. So I made the adjustment, cut my hose down to just a little over 2 feet, but I figured it would still work with the amount of water that I'm needing. So then I put a small little hose piece on the other end of the valve to act as a distributor over the bit, the grinder bit. This will allow the water and be more precise at where the water is actually being distributed. Now we need to make a mount that will hold the valve. So we kind of need to measure up where we need to make our cut. So I'll draw it out onto the piece of flat stock. I will use my Dremel tool to cut out that area. Now we'll do a quick dry fit to make sure it fits it properly. there may be some jagged edges and things of that sort, so I'll actually put some duct tape just to kind of pad it and protect the valve a little bit so it doesn't get gouged or anything of that sort. Next, we will need to do an estimation of, after the valve is sitting in there, where do we need our bend at on the flat stock for it to sit up properly over the grinder bit. So here I made my measurement estimation, made the bend, and then now I need to estimate basically where I need to cut the excess off. So I'll draw my line, and then again I'll use my Dremel tool to actually cut this area off. I realized at this point that the bend was too high for the valve, so I straightened the flat stock out and did another bend and got it to the appropriate height. So now I'm going to check it to make sure that the valve is sitting over the grinder bit appropriately and at the correct height. Once I've done that, then the excess I'll go ahead and mark and trim that off with my Dremel tool as well. Now with the excess cut, I'll put it back into position, check everything, make some minor adjustments, just to ensure everything's looking correct and it feels correct. Make some minor adjustments to the bend so that the valve will sit over the area correctly. Then I'll actually put the valve back into place and ensure that it sits correctly and just, you know, feels right. So next I will do some final adjustments, adhere it to the stand, and get ready to run a final test on everything. Appears to look pretty good, and I'll just go ahead and plug it in and see how everything looks with the water flow. Everything appears to be working pretty good. Good water flow. So I'll just go ahead and put the top back on and see how it flows over the bit and onto the sponge. Well, everything looks good, and let's get ready to use it. Well, I hope you liked the video. If you did, like and comment and subscribe to my channel.